My name is Jack, and welcome to Ludology. Today we're taking a look at Monster Hunter World, a game that made me feel dreadful. Like, really, just a piece of shit, honestly. I'm not exaggerating at all. I've never played a game that's confronted me with quite so many of my flaws as a player, and basically told me, yeah, you have to deal with these, otherwise I'm just gonna keep making you feel terrible. And obviously that doesn't make you feel very good, but I think it made me a better player in the end. I should say before we start that this isn't really a video about the depiction of hunting in games or the ethics that are tied in with that. As tempting as it is to talk about how bad I feel every time I turn up to hunt a monster clad head to toe in armour made from the remains of its own mother, other people have already done that, and probably better than I could have done. Keza MacDonald wrote a really great piece in The Guardian about the morality of video game hunting as a vegetarian, which is well worth a read. I'll link that down in the description. And also, before we begin, I've got a tiny PSA for only a few of the people I've met in Monster Hunter, but it's enough for me to want to mention it here. If you're the kind of person who, at the end of a hunt, starts attacking other players who are trying to carve up the monster, you are literally the worst humans in the world. And can you just stop playing the game forever, please? Thank you. So, why did Monster Hunter World make me feel like garbage? And why might that be a positive? Well, I think it has something to do with the fact that it makes you consider the role you play within a group far more than most games do. And when you mess up, you really feel like you've let everyone else you're playing with down. And I say this from the perspective of a person who has let a lot of people down recently playing Monster Hunter World online. One of my first experiences with this was my first fight with the Anjanath, a new monster to the series and arguably the game's first major challenge. So I'm predominantly a bow player, which means I can usually keep a pretty safe distance, and it means I'm quite nimble so I can reposition to get out of the monster's way. The only exception to this is when I'm using the bow's special move, the Dragon Piercer. The Dragon Piercing can do an enormous amount of damage, so it's very tempting to use. However, it takes a long time to charge up and your character is completely immobile while you're doing so. This means a poorly timed Dragon Piercer can seriously put you in harm's way, and that's exactly what happened. On my first ever Anjanath hunt, I teamed up with some people using the game's matchmaking function. We were all clearly very inexperienced with the fight, and it showed, with two of our group being knocked out in the first few minutes. See, Monster Hunter games are pretty brutal with this. If your team dies 3 times as a whole, the whole quest is wiped and you have to try again. 2 deaths very early into the quest meant the pressure was on not to mess this one up. But sadly, that's exactly what I did. So we'd managed to get a couple of really good hits in on the Anjanath and get it on its side where it couldn't attack us. So this was a perfect opportunity for a couple of easy special attacks. So I charged up a Dragon Piercer and the Anjanath felt it in full force. I even broke off a part of its body, but then I got greedy. I could clearly see the Anjanath getting to its feet, but I committed to another Dragon Piercer anyway. And this was a big mistake. As the attack was charging, I realised the Anjanath was readying a charge of its own, full pelt, directly into my stupid face. I was wiped out in a split second, and so were our chances of finishing the quest. I felt so bad. It wasn't just that I'd fucked up a key story quest for 3 people and myself, it's that I had this awful feeling that I'd wasted their time completely. You don't really get consolation prizes in Monster Hunter. It's either you kill the monster or you get nothing. And in this case, we got nothing. And arguably that was my fault. As you get older, your gaming time becomes a lot more precious to you and finite. So the idea that I'd rendered a solid chunk of that completely pointless for myself and 3 other people really didn't sit well with me. The same thing happened much later on in the game where I was fighting the ridiculously imposing Nergigante. Inexperienced with the fight, I jumped into a game with much higher ranked players than me and almost immediately died twice for very dumb reasons. In that case, I didn't end the hunt necessarily, but I did put everyone in a precarious position. And the feeling that I could have potentially ruined a gaming experience for 3 other people, one that's time consuming and takes all of their attention, again sat really badly with me. This all probably sounds really, really negative, and I mean, it kind of is, really. I didn't have a great time in those instances, but I don't want it to sound like I had a terrible time with the entire game. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's incredible. It may well already be my game of the year. And I think it speaks to how exceptional this game is, just how much introspection it caused within me. It's made me so much more aware of the effect my play has on other people. Like, I don't want to waste people's time in games. I want to be more cooperative, more helpful, ensure people have a good time, and that actually feels really great, and it's something I've never really considered. I'm not sure if everyone gets this, but usually when I join a lobby of random people in an online game, I just see them essentially as a bunch of usernames and not much else. I think it's quite easy just to see these people you play with as more intelligent AI, essentially. They're just there to help you out, and you don't really have to think about their play, and you don't have to think about making it better for them. Monster Hunter World made me consider the actual human beings behind the usernames. It even made me a little bit angry at the trolls and griefers who just go out of their way to make the experiences of other people worse. So next time you're playing with someone online, just think, how can I make this experience good for me and them? It doesn't necessarily take a lot. Little things can go really far. Often it just requires you to be a little more considerate, careful, and thoughtful in your play. I'd be really interested to see if a game has had this effect on other people, so feel free to start a discussion in the comments section if you feel like it. And while you're here, a like would be very much appreciated. If you've enjoyed these quite rambly thoughts about Monster Hunter World, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I've got lots more in store in the coming weeks. Thank you for watching.